Does the NRL have a problem with players' attitudes towards women?
I think they recognise that there may be an image that rugby league has in its attitude towards women, and I think some of that's quite founded over the years. I think it is being taken seriously by most clubs. I wouldn't say all clubs, but most clubs, and there lies the problem.
The Newcastle Knights have been embroiled in their own controversies in the past. Rugby league legend Andrew Johns still advises the players at his old club. Johns' public admission 2 years ago that he used ecstasy and other drugs while playing for Newcastle rocked the entire code.
That certainly woke us up that, you know, if it can happen to the best player in the world, well, certainly it can happen to other players.
2 years ago, Newcastle were a club in disarray. They were bottom of the table, losing faith with their fans and losing sponsors. The incoming CEO, Steve Burriston, decided the club had to change.
It was all about culture. It was about introducing a new culture. So we had to get rid of any chance that our players were going to fall into illicit substances. That's probably the biggest no-no that we had to address.
Coach Brian Smith was brought in to rebuild the team after the departure of Andrew Johns. He recognised that the club's problems started with alcohol and the drinking culture.
It was my job to sell the concept of changing the amount of alcohol that people were drinking. That sort of let your hair down is how that's the only way we can really bond together. We're learning how to do that.
Smith knows that Newcastle's approach isn't supported by all the teams in the NRL.
There probably are still one or two coaches who are still living by the train hard, drink hard, play hard.
Who are they?
No, I'm not going there, baby.
Like most clubs, Newcastle had to learn the hard way. Some of the current players, including captain Kirk Gidley, lived through one of Newcastle's most controversial episodes. In February 2005, before the current coach and CEO arrived, Newcastle were playing a pre-season match against the Penrith Panthers in Bathurst. The game coincided with the first weekend of term for students at Charles Sturt University.
There were new students, there were old students, there were locals. Everyone was out because it's such a massive night in Bathurst. I mean, everyone was, it's fair to say, pretty annihilated, but having an awesome time.
Caroline, as we'll call her, had just moved into the university dorm.
My recollection is, I mean, leaning on my brother, him taking me up the stairs, and he said to me the next day that he'd actually made a point of not locking my door so that in case I needed to get out in the night, in case I needed to be sick or go to the toilet or get a glass of water.
The Knights were staying in a hotel next door. 12 of the players broke curfew and went on a rampage around the dorm.
I remember it was an early shut. We ended up having a few back at the hotel in a room, and I think it's actually down the road, might have been next door. I think there was actually a few uni students having a beer, so we thought it might be all right just to go down. And it was actually outdoors for a start, and this didn't seem to be too much harm in the time, but obviously there was a few things that weren't right.
One of the players peeled off from the group and walked into a girl's room.
As I'm lying there, face down, arms out on the bed, head on the pillow, he climbs on top of me and straddles me and sits sort of on my thighs. He started to rub my back. And, like, just using the word makes me feel sick, but he was caressing my back and saying in, like, this sort of soft voice, you know, roll over, roll over. You'll enjoy it, just roll over. Just roll over. He just kept saying it. Just roll over, just roll over. And then he started to put his hands around me between my body and the mattress, like in the front of me, my front, and doing the same things to the front of me that he was doing to my back. And he put his hands down to, I don't know, what do you say, touch my private parts.
So when that happened, what did you do then?
He obviously picked up then that I was really starting to get stressed because I was saying, you know, get off, who are you, get out, who are you, get off. And really started to try and sort of struggle, like get up on my elbows and try and get him off. And eventually he got off and walked out the door and left the door open.
For a place where many students study communications, it was hard to get a word out of anybody today. But officially,
The story of the Newcastle players' drunken night got out the next day.
And the Leagues Club.
The media quickly focused on rumours that rookie player Dane Tilse may have been involved in an assault on a student.
I went in to where my brother was and told him what happened.
What did your brother say? Did he think that you should go to the police?
My poor brother. He felt so bad for not locking that door. He felt so bad. He didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I just wanted everyone just to shut up about it, really.
Caroline initially went to the police.
It is a criminal investigation. We have interviewed the alleged victim and we are in the process of interviewing a number of witnesses.
Love their players.
But she decided not to press charges.
There is no way. It's not like if he was just another guy, I would be going up against him. If I'm going up against Dane Tilse, I'm going up against him, the football team, the NRL, their fans. I'm not going to take that on.
Hit with a $100,000 fine by the NRL, the club in turn then slapped fines totalling $50,000 on 12 players.
Dane Tilse told Four Corners he went into Caroline's room, but only tickled her back.
Working hard towards rebuilding that trust. Thank you.
The club sacked him, and he was deregistered by the NRL for a year. Steve Burriston wasn't at Newcastle at the time, but he'd coached Tilse in the past.
He was 17-year-old when I was coaching him, and I couldn't imagine him doing the wrong thing. I couldn't. That was a hell of a shock to me. I know he's gone to Canberra, I know he's playing good footy, and I know he's never had a problem since. So I think that you'll find in most of these cases that there's a common denominator, and that's alcohol.
Do you think it would happen like that now? The way the club is now, do you think something like that would happen?
No way, no, not even the last couple of years. We've got steps in place where if we go somewhere, we go as a group. There's no little groups that are breaking off going to a different direction, so there's a curfews in place. You know, it's become a long way.